what's up? GarageKing here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel injector seals on a direct inject engine. They're pretty much all the same. It really only has 3 seals. Here's how they come in the pack when you order. You can see the Teflon one at the top, the rubber one in the middle, and the plastic one at the bottom. Let's take a closer look at how they look when they're actually on the injector. There's 2 up top. There's a rubber one right there, you can see, plastic one, and here's the one that worries everyone. Whoops, a little bit of a blooper there. The Teflon one. So that's the most important one. So we have our fuel injector. Top seal, like I said, is rubber, comes off really easy. You can just sort of dig a pick in there, and then all you gotta do is just pop it up, and it comes off really easy. Sort of like regular fuel injectors on a port injection system, anything like that. The second seal right here, it's a plastic seal. It's got a step right there, you can see, so small part on the bottom, big part on the top. It opens up, we can just yank it off with a pair of pliers, not a big deal. Here's the thing that concerns everybody most of all. It is the Teflon seal, and we have to shrink it down to size, but before we shrink it down to size, we have to be able to slide it on somehow. How do we do that? We need a special tool. So here's a tool I picked up from Amazon. They're all pretty much the same, cost me under $100 Canadian, so for you US folks with your currency that's worth more than ours, it's only about $60, $70 US. Let's take a look inside the box and see what we see. We can see we have a bunch of cones. What these are is they're tapered cones. They're to shrink the injectors back on. And we have a slide hammer. That's what you're going to use most of the time. And then obviously you have this little doohickey special tool here, and that is used to stretch the seal on. So those are the ones you use most of the time. It's just the tapered seals, the slide hammer, and then this thing, whatever you want to call it here, this type of cone. That's what you're going to use 95% of the time. The rest of the stuff you don't really use. Mind you, this brush you can use for cleaning out the bore once you pull your injector out. So this doohickey here, as I was saying, actually has a little divot right there. You can see it goes on right there. You can actually see, look at that. So it stays, so it won't slide off. And then your new Teflon seal actually just slides over there. But the problem is once it slides over there, this groove here, it's going to be too big. So what happens is we got to shrink it down, and that's where we're going to use these tapered cones. The tapered cones go over, and they get smaller as you push them on, and they will shrink this sucker right back on. So let's show you how it's done. Now, in order to actually take the Teflon seal out, you don't need any fancy tools whatsoever. Actually, all you need is a razor blade. So this is it. So you can see me cutting it with the razor blade. You want to be careful when you're cutting it with the razor blade not to mar the surface of the injector at all. And then once you cut through, I just used a pick. As you can see, it was pretty easy to actually take it off with a pick. Spray it with a little bit of brake clean. I should remind you at this point, you do not use any type of lubricant. The seal has to go on dry. So once you have it started by hand, what you do is you just grab the cone and you just push it on, and the cone will stretch it over the doohickey tool, if you want to call it that, and then it'll just slide right onto the injector. And if you take a look at it right there, you can see there it's on the flat part, and now we'll just slide it right onto the injector and make sure that it's in the groove. So all we have to do now is shrink it down, so we just got to find the proper cone. Now the one thing I should say, I was really sort of going back and forth between all the cones, as there was not one cone that had a perfect fit. So what I had to do is grab one cone, shrink it a little bit, and then go to another cone, and then I could shrink it a little more, and I sort of did it in step like that. So I found that, at least with this toolkit anyway, I couldn't do it in one step. When I found the one cone that would fit, the problem is it went over, it did shrink the seal down, but I just felt it didn't shrink the seal down enough, and I thought the seal was still a little bit too loose, and I was afraid if I was going to jam it in the engine or something like that, it might bind or just not seal right, and the last thing I want to do is have a fuel leak or have some other type of problems. So what I did is I just used 2 cones, I think 2 out of the 3 in the kit is what I used, and I was able to step it down a little bit more just to get it tight on the injector. So anyway, that's what I did just to make sure that I had a good seal. That's pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know below. If you have any advice too on making certain types of videos, am I too technical, not technical enough? I mean, I appreciate all comments, and I try to gear my videos to the comments that I get. So any comments, let me know. The last thing I should remind you is this little plastic 3-legged friend here. Make sure you don't forget to snap him back onto the injector.